So that being said, where are we? We're in code11.net. Make their week.
9?
Is it 9? Yeah, it is week 9. I just said that like an hour ago.
I felt so much anxiety when I heard you say week 9.
Same.
Yeah?
Same.
That anxiety is healthy.
I definitely feel.
It keeps you on your toes, yeah.
Keeps you up at night.
You have to channel that anxiety and be like, hey, did you see the stress video like week 1? Like, use anxiety and stress to your advantage?
Mhm.
So much easier said than done.
Yeah, oh god,
I
yes.
was
Are
gonna
you
say, that
kidding
video
me?
sounds like nonsense to me. A lot of it's definitely cool.
I don't know that it necessarily sounds like nonsense, but it was kind of like, yeah, just be different.
Yeah,
And
that's
I was
Yeah.
like, okay, no.
Yeah.
It's
like-
equivalent to somebody would forget about it.
It's one of those, like, for me, it's not like a how to do it. It's a, hey, realize this is what's going on whenever you feel that anxiety. Your anxiety is not there to bork you up a little bit. It's there to kind of like give you that extra like adrenaline rush to kind of get things done. What I like to do whenever I start feeling that anxiety about like about stuff is to like coding and stuff about life is that I like to pick off small little bits just to get stuff done. So like if I'm sitting there stressing about like my wireframes, like this wireframe's really getting to me, I'll go and like here's one wireframe, get it done. Now I'll feel better. Not only will I have one wireframe done, I'll probably now be in a mindset in that adrenaline rush to kind of get the rest done. So yeah, that's how I kind of use it to my advantage.
Anxiety to me is fear of the unknown.
Yes.
So I start recognizing what do I not know?
Mhm.
Okay, what do I need to know?
Yeah.
And then I start
Yeah.
exactly what you're explaining. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I have anxiety. Why? Because I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this, this, and this. Well, how do I start?
Mm-hmm. Like
That helps.
I have that white page syndrome a lot, where like it's hard to like if I'm just looking at a blank slate, like it's hard for me to get started. That's why I just kind of start doing anything. And now, of course, all easier said than done. But you know what isn't easier said than done? APIs. So we're going to make a new .NET program. But this time, we're not going to make a console application. We're going to make a web API. Intro. I am recording. What's someone's favorite hobby? Not fishing.
Golf,
And not cooking. Golf?
video games.
Let's make a API for
Working out.
golf courses.
Sure. Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Golf courses API.
.NET new web API dash.
Do we like lowercase API or uppercase API?
I like uppercase.
You like-
When I'm doing something that's like an acronym.
Yeah,
I like-
I'm always hesitant which to do. I know technically it's supposed to be lowercase PI, but I kind of like uppercase API.
Just because it's an acronym.
Yeah. So .NET new web API golf course API. Yeah, we'll go with that. Woo!
Gee.
Did I not switch? Oh, dash B.
Dash N, right?
Yeah.
I was about to ask, what's dash B?
Nothing.
Good.
Absolutely nothing. They just started beta stack this morning, so I heard Gavin talk about it. Oh, that's so long ago. Yeah, so now we've created our.
So long ago this morning.
So now we have our golf course API. Now there's a lot of files here, a lot of new files, but it's nothing that It's nothing that we really haven't covered yet. So I'm going to add my get ignore.
You have to add that, right?
Mhm. So this is the basic API. So there's no HTML, there's no real user interface. It's all for creating API. You all have used APIs before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Minesweeper API, Movie API. I don't know what other APIs
The
there are.
weather API.
What?
The weather API.
All on your view.
Yeah, like
Those two.
yeah, it's all kind of up there. So let's kind of check it out. Here's our program CS. Our program CS, we all know, is our starting point, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what we were playing in last week. If we look at this one, it's still relatively simple, right? We still have our program, a bit more usings. You don't need to know what all of those are. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to show up that you're going to not know what it is. This is one difference between Ruby and .NET, just kind of compare and contrast a little bit, is that Ruby hides a lot of the complexity for you and kind of like does stuff for you. This allows you to customize that complexity, so it's kind of more more in your face, and that's okay. It's nothing to be scared of or anything like that. You just kind of have to go, I don't know what that means, and right now I don't care to know what that means. As long as you kind of internalize that, these next couple weeks will be a lot easier for you. So that being said, here's our main create web host builder with all this other stuff. We see that create web host builder is a function that has something down here, web host, create default builder, use startup. Now we've seen that angle syntax before, right?
Yes.
What is that angle syntax? What have we seen that with?
React.
In C#.
Oh.
Whenever we make a new list, right? New list of ints, new list of strings, stuff like that.
What's it text?
This angle bracket syntax.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So like if we do like var list equals new list of integers, we now have a new list of ints, right? That angle syntax is our generic syntax. That just means that they were specifying a type. That's all. So here we're saying, hey, use something of type startup. Well, let's check out startup. Startup is where the basic configuration for your web server lives. So whenever we configure a database in an hour or two, whenever we have to do some core stuff, whenever we have to do some JSON manipulation, a lot of that's going to go here. There's a lot here. I don't want to overwhelm you with digging into this too much, but we'll be back here in a little bit. This is here is our blueprint of how our server runs. So let's run this server and see what happens. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
So .NET watch run. Can y'all see this, or do I need to blow it up a little bit?
You can see it.
You good? Y'all good?
Sure.
What's it doing?
All right, now it's just building. Now you see it's listening on two different ports. Port 5000 and port 5001. One is HTTP, one is HTTPS.
So you can go to that and see what your API looks like.
Yeah, so let's head over to localhost 5000. Well, what's going to happen? Nothing.
Nothing there.
Because nothing's there. Well, there's nothing there. So what is actually here? Well, this scaffolding gives us a default controller. So this default controller gives us kind of the model for what the verb endpoints look like. So let's take a step back. Let's talk about RESTful APIs. Have we talked about RESTful APIs yet?
Probably.
I have heard the term.
So what do we know about them? Let's just kind of start with that and kind of grow that.
Information gets thrown to them.
Information gets thrown to them, okay,
Pulled from somewhere.
and pulled.
RESTful
Yes.
sounds like static, kind of. Like once it's there. No.
The issue is that you're not wrong, but you're not right.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love that, right?
I love that answer.
Because RESTful is a more English term for REST. REST is an acronym. So REST itself stands for representative, RE, state transfer. Pretty much, it's a way for us to structure our API so that we're dealing with resources. So when I say resources, I mean like people, the nows that are inside of our database. So like this morning for your warm-up, it'd be articles. And this idea of a resource says everything, every item, every resource inside of my program has a unique URL. So if we were just to kind of riff on this for a second, if we had what nouns did we have today in the warm-up?
Comments, users.
Articles, comments, and users. Right? There's many of those. So we want to expose this in a way so that each one of those things inside of our database, each one of those resources has a unique URL. So it's going to look like something like /API/articles/2. And that 2 is the ID of the article that I want. I can say, hey, say API/comments/76. Give me the 76th comment, whatever it is. /API/users/4. Give me user with the ID 4. Question?
In a case like this, would just like for a specific example, wouldn't it be something like users/4-articles/2 or
So yeah, so let's kind of think of this for a second. So let's kind of build up our RESTful API endpoints based off the world. So these are kind of nonsensical and kind of basic, right? As Andrew pointed out, hey, I want all articles for a user, right?
okay?
Or like I want all comments for I want all comments for an article, right? That's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like if I wanted to get a user's articles /API/users/5/articles.
Okay. Yeah.
If I wanted to get one article for a user,
So I'll tell you all the articles set that user.
So now we're kind of building up this kind of like natural language of how we can work and how we can reason about what is behind this API.
When you say /API user 5 article 7, that's at the end of our link.
Correct. So this would be like localhost 5000 /API.
/API.
Yeah.
How does the API get built though? Where does the API come from?
We're getting there.
We must build.
Yes. Yes. This is kind of what we're driving to right now. We're just kind of working on the
I see,
URL
I
structures
see.
right now. So this is all getting, right? This is all kind of we've mapped out what we have. Now remember the verbs that we talk about, like get, post, put, delete, patch. Get, post, put, patch, delete. Yeah.
Is there a word for it?
It's a verb. It's HTTP RESTful verbs. That means what that means that I can now modify my request, and the request will do something different. So, like if I wanted to get a user, I'm doing a GET request to that URL. If I wanted to update a user, I'm doing a post to that user endpoint. And even though we're going to the same endpoint here, the GET and the post, I'm doing different things. And this is the idea of RESTful, is that now I know where this resource lives. I know that user 4 lives at this URL. I can do different verbs to it to modify that server state. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or how does that sound? Conceptually.
Get is what you use to access what's in the
Yep.
database. Post is what you use to add or
So
change.
So let's kind of walk through the 5 verbs. Getting data. Right? All of your get endpoints just querying data. It shouldn't really be updating anything. It should only be getting. You have put. Put is creating. So if I wanted to create a new user, I would do a put to API/users. That's just a simple, like, of course you're going to pass in all the user information as well inside the body.
Right.
But like, here's everything. Here's to create a new user. If I wanted to delete that user, delete /API/users/4.
So that's the fourth one.
Mm-hmm.
Get post.
Get put post. Post is updating, and patch is also updating. There's slight differences to what those are, and we'll get to those eventually. But for today, just know that post and patch are both updated.
Let's get that.
Getting.
And put is adding.
Yes.
So put you would use to create a whole new user. Post you would use to update information for an existing user.
Yep.
And delete is just get rid of it.
Yep.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why, like, the most popular two are get and post, because you said that, I believe you said the first thing, a post creates something, right? It does something. There for the longest time, up until like 2 or 3 years ago, The only two verbs that the browser actually supported was get and post. And that's it. The browser didn't support any of the verbs because Internet Explorer. It's the thing. So yeah, that's this whole idea behind restfulness. So we want to make sure that our API is exposing the resources inside of the system in some meaningful manner. Okay?
Okay.
So now we kind of have a plan of what kind of server we want to build. We actually have to see how we're going to be doing that. I want to save you out here. So here we have something called controllers. So ASP.NET, .NET, as well as most modern web frameworks are something called MVC. Have we heard that term before?
Yeah.
So what does it mean?
Model view controller.
Model view controller. What does that mean?
Fuck if I know.
Modern view controller. Model view controller.
Mm-hmm.
So control the model view.
The model of like the structure, the view is what we see, and the controller is how we interact with it.
That's actually very close.
Sounds pretty good.
That's it. That sounds real. That for me, that would pass in a job interview.
Well, that's good. All right, put that one in my pocket and save it for this Friday.
So let's kind of take it and expand on that a little bit. So the model, the structure of things. And let's kind of, when we say the structure of things, it's how our data is stored. It's all about the database. Model and database, for now, you can think as synonyms. But they mean the exact same thing. Which is where is our data. Where's our data stored? It doesn't have to be a database. In the grand scheme of things, it could be a flat file, it could be a JSON. Hell, it could be another API for all we know.
So it would be more accurate to say that model is the data structure.
Yes,
The data structure rather than just the structure.
yes. That's kind of like the next level. But like for today, for now, the model's the database.
Got it.
So there's no model folder here yet. We're going to be adding a models folder that we're going to be sticking our database in. But what we do have is the controller folder. So the controller is what kind of helps the model communicate with the view. The view is what the user sees. It's the presentation layer. It is what's on the other side of this. It's what it all comes down to.
What helps the model communicate with the what?
The controller, so the view is what the user sees. The view will send actions back to the controller, and the controller will send actions back to the model. You can kind of think as a controller is kind of like the air traffic control center.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to just take in a request, do something with it, interact with the model, and then produce another view.
So the controllers will help the model communicate with the view.
Because your views should be completely agnostic of your models. They should not care what the model structure is. That way, if we have 3 different versions of our database that we made this morning, we can change the database without the view ever changing.
Yeah.
So the controller's where all the get, put, post, delete is going to be happening.
Exactly. Yes. So all of these things are going to be defined inside of our controllers.
Oh, this is awesome.
Feeling better now.
Yes, this is cool.
So let's
Missing piece.
Yeah, it really is. Let's check out the controller that we get with the scaffold. You notice it's called values controller, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to commit everything. So we get rid of that color. Values controller. Now on the side of it, let's kind of peel into this. It's just a class. When it's all said and done, it's just a class. Let's kind of keep that in mind as we go forward. So we have values controller. Let's kind of zoom in right here. Got a couple usings. It's in the namespace. We know what a namespace is. Public class values controller. We have 2 new pieces of syntax here, right? We have the colon syntax, and we have those bracket things.
Square bracket.
Yeah. Nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be scared of. Those square brackets are called decorators, And what they do, they modify the next thing that comes afterwards.
Okay.
So you can think of it as kind of like, hey, here's something I want to give more details, more conceptual, and more functionality to. So I'm saying, hey, this values controller, it's a API controller. It's also at a URL, its route is /API/controller. The brackets there, controller, is the controller name, which is values controller. So this controller is located at /API/values. Okay? So if I do a GET request /API/values, I'm going to go down here and it's going to find its GET and run this code and give me this return value.
It's going to give you a new string with value 1
And value 2.
and value 2.
So it's going to give me an array of 2 values,
Mhm.
value 1 and value 2. Do you want to see that now? Just kind of see everything going
Yeah,
into it?
absolutely.
So you just put in the HTML website right there, where it says HTML.
We'll come back to that. So now instead of going to localhost 5000, I'm going to localhost 5000 /API/values.
And that should give you an array of value 1 and value 2.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So here I can, now I can go in and change this, hello world, come over here. Now I go in and change. Now I have power to change my API. So it's coming here because of this little tag here, this little decorator here.
Okay.
It's saying, hey, someone has come to this URL, we're hitting this controller, but the verb we're using is a GET. We're not getting any parameters, we're not doing anything crazy like that. It's just a straight up GET. So it's going to come right here. The second route is also a GET. But this is our GET1 parameter. So this is like API/user, API/user/4, API/articles/5. But in this case, it's going to be API/values/some number. Now we know it's a number because of this right here. So now that we know that a controller itself is just a class, we can think of individual routes as just functions that we're calling. And functions can take parameters, right?
Sure.
So now we go, hey, whatever value you pass me, do something with it and then return it. If I wanted to do something with that value,
Is the syntax always like this, but in public action result?
yes, we will. Remind me in 2
Expand
minutes.
on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
remind me in 2 minutes.
Much appreciated. Just have a marker though.
Huh? That marker?
Sweet.
So now we've created an echo route, right? I can pass it an ID, and it will return to me something. It will return to me that ID itself. So if I head over here, API/values/14.
Good.
So because this is a URL, if I tried to pass in something like goat, I get an error. Goat is not a valid number.
Because it's an int.
You've essentially like console logged this.
Pretty
If you
much.
set that to string, you could use go.
Let's switch that to string.
Don't you have to change ID to string too? Okay.
Nope. Because this line right here is just telling me, hey, in the URL, I have a parameter that's at the end. That's all that's saying. It's getting the type ID from this right here. So it's doing a little bit of type checking for you. If we try it again, yeah, the passing was good.
So just depending on how our model is, will determine what type of ID we use.
Yes, mostly always going to be string. 99% of the time. Or sorry, int.
Int. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that makes sense.
So how are we feeling so far?
Kind of shaky.
A little bit shaky.
There's a lot, right?
Definitely really, yeah. Would you mind going back to the controller view?
Oh,
Or not
yeah.
Controller view,
We're-
whatever.
We're not done here.
Yeah, I'm sure. I just kind of wanted to get as much
Yeah.
face time on it before moving on as possible.
Yeah.
So is the public action result I enumerable string, is that like completely valueless now that we've moved on to the next thing where we have HTTP get?
So think of each one of these functions as their own routes.
Yeah.
And methods take parameters. They also have a return type, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I remember last week when we created our sum method, we have like public. It was public int sum, and it took two numbers and added them together. Nothing too crazy. That int is its return type. These also have to have a return type as well. So what's going on here? Public action result, IEnumerable string. We know what an IEnumerable is, right? It's just a fancy term for a list. That's all.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, that's all it is, just a fancy term for a list. So we're saying, hey, this thing returns to me a list of strings as an action result. This action result is something new. This action result is a fancy word of saying, hey, it's going to be returning some sort of HTTP response. That's it. So our HTTP response, we want it to be JSON, right?
Sure.
So because we're saying, hey, it's returning a response, and we're inside of an API controller, it's going to take whatever we pass it and convert it to JSON.
So that's where the API controller is. That's what's doing it.
Yep. It's this plus this.
Converts all of our HTTP
Yeah, it can-
information that
To a
is
JSON.
getting the action result into
Yes.
a JSON.
So it's taking our strongly type data types. In this case, it's a array of strings, and converting it to a JSON array.
So really they're like just individual things, but it because of the way it's formatted, it reads like a sentence, like "Hello world."
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So if we had an object of some sort, let's just create a new anonymous object real fast that had, an ID equals 1. What's your drama? Oh, yeah, okay, you're fine. You're fine. ID name equals name. So now instead of returning a string array, I want to return an object. Instead of saying, hey, return me here, just return an object. So this is sidetracked. This is what's called an anonymous object. So let's kind of think about that for a second. In JavaScript, we have anonymous functions, right? What is an anonymous function?
Some of the ones with, like the arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a function that we define that we don't use someplace else, right? It has a name to it.
Okay.
So an anonymous object is just an object that we're just kind of saying it's an object. It's not really a class. So I can't reuse this structure anywhere else. That's all. So think, hey, I have a new object. We'll call it Billy for short. That I want to return. I had to change my return type from an action result of IEnumerable string to an action result of object. So now I'm saying, hey, take my object that I'm returning, convert that to an HTTP response, and then serve that up.
Am I getting too far ahead if I asked if we were to declare that object elsewhere and then call it, we could reuse that same structure?
You are about 20 minutes in the future.
Sorry.
No, I like questions like that because that means that you're getting it.
Okay.
So let's go back to our values endpoint and see what's going on here.
Yeah. Okay.
So they head back to our values endpoint. We're now going to get a JSON object of that object.
Cool.
You notice how it converted the casing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no longer a Pascal case; it's now a Camel case. which is awesome. So now it's doing all of that for us.
That's awesome.
Feeling good still? So just kind of solidify this up. Now let's get this to use classes. All right. Let's actually create our first model. How does that sound? So we are creating a golf course API. So let's create a models folder. Outside of the controller folder. And now inside of here, let's create our very first model. So our model should be a C# object representation of our data.
Okay.
So it needs to be something called a POCO. Plain old C# object. So what that means is that our object is relatively dumb and doesn't have a lot of logic to it. It's just kind of like a declaration of like, here it is, that's all. So let's call it golf courses. Let's call it golfcourse.cs.
C sharp.
CS?
Yeah.
Yeah. Golf course API. And let's put it in the models namespace. So this is our first time creating ourselves a new namespace, right?
Right.
We kind of talked about what a namespace is last time. What is a namespace? What's our best guess?
Based on looking at that, you're saying golf course API is going to be the name and it's in models?
Yeah. So a namespace is a way to help organize our code and keep things separate. You know how in JavaScript we have modules?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I'm going to put this thing inside a module, and then I'm going to export that module and I'm going to use that someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, instead of exporting it as a module, we wrap our code inside a namespace, and then we're going to use that namespace wherever we want to use that code.
So using.
Yeah. So I'm saying, hey,
Component in React.
yes. So I'm saying, hey, all my model classes, all my model objects are going to be in their own namespace. So inside of here, our model public class golf course. So what does the golf course have besides spelling errors?
It has holes. Like hole number.
All right, so we have number of holes. What?
3, 4, 5.
Do average par. So whenever to say golf course, are we talking about an actual hole at a golf course, or are we talking about the golf course as a whole?
Golf course as a whole.
Okay, so then it would be average party as a par 70, par 71,
Mhm.
68,
Mm-hmm.
average yardage.
We'll do total par.
The number of holes would be constant, no? Like it's always 18.
Not necessarily.
necessarily.
It could be 9. Could be 36 hole.
I've seen a few golf courses that have 9 holes
Of course, yeah, for sure.
because they're,
A par 3 or something.
Yeah.
Location, rank,
Yep, location.
the rank of the golf course.
We'll do rank.
Definitely how many yards? 5,800 to 6,400.
It's good enough for now, right?
Yeah.
I'm also going to give it a name, just so we can kind of designate it. So we know which golf course we're talking about.
Of course, we skipped
Great
name.
place to start.
Yeah. So let's just kind of create these properties really fast. Prop int number of holes. We can actually set this default to 18.
Yep.
Because unless we tell it otherwise, it's always going to be 18. Par. What's
So, 72.
72 is standard?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know what that was. Location. Props.
I think it was supposed to be par average.
Prop string. Location. No default value there because there's no default location. Rank. I don't know golf courses. I'm not in y'all.
I mean, when you said rank, Mike, you meant like the rank of it, like locally, like nationally, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if there's a default value here either.
Okay, we'll just kind of set that there. Prop double. Total yards.
I think standard's 5,800.
What is it?
5,800.
5,800. Okay.
Do you only put the semicolon after ones that you have defined a value?
For rank, should we define the value as null, the default?
Because it's a string, it's already defaulting to null. If we wanted to be explicit, we could. But it will produce to you the exact same results.
Okay.
And then name, pop string name. Right. So this is what our database table is going to look like, right? We've now defined our database table with our database types. What's missing here? Every database table needs an ID.
Yep.
And that's it. So now we have our models. Let's create a new controller. We'll call this golf. We'll call this courses controller. .cs. So I like to kind of be cheeky a little bit. And I like to steal this from the values controller. Instead of me having to type all that up again.
Pretty smart.
I will never do that.
There are some code generation tools for the command line that don't give you enough for me to warrant using. Like they'll give you this.
You gotta change the choruses to courses. Just before you go further.
Yep. Thank you. So like they'll give you like just this. So they don't give you that much.
Can I give the usings?
Yeah. Oh, they do, but that's about it. Like they give you the usings and the namespace, and that's about it.
Okay.
So like they don't give you that much. The command line tools are still relatively new. The tooling for the Mac is still relatively new as well, and it's kind of more like, and I hate this term, but they're more for like hipster programmers that are very minimalistic. I know I hate that term, but it is what it is.
How old is Core?
It was released when I started teaching about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So it's still really young compared to the .NET framework on Windows. It has a crazy tool set. That being said, if you're on Windows, whenever we hit Visual Studio, like you'll be doing a lot with that. That's what I showed y'all during the talks, where it was like, here's my website just after I defined a model. Like that's it. But before we can run, you have to walk. So I want to define a
You saw that?
yep. So I want to define a get here that returns to me all of my golf courses. Right? Does that sound good? So let's define a new get. New get. It returns an action result of IEnumerable
A list.
of golf courses, right?
Oh, okay, I was gonna say
Oops, I'm not that. So here we have an error. What's that error say? Because you'll see this error a lot.
Cover namespace golf course cannot be found. Are you missing a using directive? So we need to be using golfcourse.cs.
Yep. So you see, it added a using statement, golf course API.models.
How did you just pop open the? Did you right click and that's how you got all those the options on the side that you just chose from?
It's wow. What is it? Oh, it's command.
No, the cast is.
It's a command period.
Command. Okay, cool.
That brings up your little light bulb.
You find that to be pretty useful?
I'm more of a keyboard kind of guy.
Okay.
So I need to recast.
God, that code works so loud.
The reason why I came over this morning and talked to y'all was because I didn't know that anyone else was here. It was so quiet whenever I got here. I was like, why is it so quiet here?
Then we're in there literally yelling about.
Dude, you don't need this. Dude, we're all so damn stressed, and I at least am a loud person normally.
Anyways, so yeah, if you're on it and you ever see the light bulb, command period, control period will bring up your little menu, It'll give you your options. It's like, hey, I need to import my models. So now you see the controllers and the models are in two separate namespaces.
Okay.
Even though we're in the same project, and they're both in Golf Courses API, their full namespace is different. So by default, controllers can't see models. If I make up a new controller, I can't see the models unless I include it. So that using statement only works per file.
The model in this case is the what?
The golf course.
Because the golf course does CS.
And that's it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Just to note, before we kind of say that, typically best practices, namespaces match up with folder structure. So if we look at this, hey, golf course API.controllers, I'm in the controllers folder. My models folder, golf courses API.models, should be in here. It will still work if it's not like that. So technically, it will still work. Best practice though, keep your folder structures good. So I want to return something here, right? And this is kind of where we go into our database talk. So let's take a good 11-minute break, come back at 11:05, and then we'll say how do we hook this up to our database. Does that sound good?
Yes.